Well, welcome everybody to Becoming a Successful and Commercial Model Online Workshop. My name is Joel Mark Witt. I'm the producer today, and I want to introduce Aaron Marcus, our host and expert on this session, this workshop, who's going to really give us some insights into acting and modeling. And Aaron Marcus has been a full-time actor and commercial model since 1986. He has been cast in 1,176 acting and modeling projects. You've seen Aaron on Law and Order, CI, The West Wing, Homicide, The Wire, Burn After Reading, A Modest Suggestion, and ads for AT&T, McDonald's, Marriott, Crayola Crayons, Kmart, Lifesavers, and Disney World. He currently has a national TV commercial running for the American Medical Association. Aaron Marcus has also written How to Become a Successful Commercial Model. It's a book, now in its 5th edition. This book is considered by many to be the most important book on commercial modeling and can be seen and ordered on Aaron's website, howtomodel.com. Aaron also travels the globe offering his seminar, Becoming a Successful Actor and Commercial Model Workshop, both in person and now through these online workshops. Aaron also gives private one-on-one consultations to actors and models, helping them and coaching them in their careers. You can follow Aaron on Twitter at twitter.com/Aaron R, as in Robert, Marcus, and at Facebook, where you can find him at facebook.com/howtomodel. Aaron Marcus, welcome to the workshop.
Joel, it's so great to be here, and for everybody who is hanging out on the other side, this is really, really neat. I'm so excited about being able to do this. One of the things that I just wanted to mention right off the bat, I know you would mention, Joel, the howtomodel.com, the Facebook /howtomodel, and the Twitter account, which is Aaron R. Marcus. The reason why I have these set up is because I like this idea, and I've been doing this for a while, of creating a worldwide community of people helping each other in the industry. And you know, it's a funny thing, I know people talk about the acting and modeling industry as being very cutthroat, and it can be backstabbing, and you know, for some people that is how they run their business. But the thing that's nice is that it doesn't have to be that way. You know, you really can be a nice person and a helpful person and someone who wants to share information and still be successful. And I've had people tell me, well, why would you want to give out, you know, some of the secrets that have helped you get jobs? Isn't that going to make things more competitive for you? Somebody might learn this stuff and then use it in an audition, and then they're going to book the job, and you might not book the job. And actually, that's very true, and I'm sure it has happened. But I guess the feeling that I have is that I really don't feel like I have any competition in this world. And I'm not saying that because I think I'm such a great actor and such a great commercial model, because honestly, I'm not. I mean, I'm okay at what I do. I know what my strengths are, and it has gotten me, you know, over 1,100 jobs. So I'm very fortunate. But, you know, there are millions and millions of people who are much more talented and have much better looks than I do. Uh, and it's also possible they don't work nearly as much as I do. But the reason why I don't feel like I have any competition is the same reason why you don't have any competition in this world. And that's simply because everybody brings something unique to the table through your looks, through your experiences, through your lives. And so when you're at an audition, and I'm not saying if you do a horrible audition that, you know, you might not get the job based on your performance, of course, but there are just so many factors that go into booking a job and not booking a job. And I just always feel like, you know, if the job was meant for me, then I'm going to book it. And if it's meant for somebody else, that they're going to book it. And I really do believe that the quicker you stop comparing yourself to other people, the quicker you stop, you know, looking around the room as to who else is auditioning with you, the faster the success will have. I mean, on Thursday, I had an audition for a TV spot, and there were a lot of people in this room, and you know what? There were lots of people who looked like they could be perfect for this part. And so instead of comparing myself and wondering and thinking, wow, I've seen that person on TV before, and I just went in, concentrated on what I needed to do, and as it turns out, I didn't get a call back. I didn't book the job. and that's okay too. So anyhow, what I do is I create a community of people around the world trying to help each other, and I find that that for me is a nice way for me to run my business. So please, join the Twitter account and follow me. Go to my Facebook fan page because we share information there. I'm always putting updates, new information on my website, howtomodel.com. I have a forum page. If I hear about an audition, if I hear about a GoSee, which is the audition for models, if I hear about a job, I'll post it there so other people can, learn from it, and hopefully it will be helpful to them. And I'd like to ask you all as well to share your knowledge and your experience on those places also. Okay, so let me officially get going here. And like Joel had mentioned, if you have any questions at all about the industry, please feel free to either ask it live or type in your question and Joel will relay it to me. And you'll see here in a second, let me move down to the next page. After every section, we are going to take 30 minutes just for question and answers. So if you want to ask, while the question pops up in your head while I'm talking about something, feel free to stop me. Or if it's something you want to wait, it's a longer kind of question and you want to wait till the 30-minute session where it's just Q&As, that's fine too. And I'll find a point sometime throughout the day where maybe we can take a 15-minute break or a 5-minute quick break here and there because this is going to be a long day. Okay, so here's today's schedule. Starting or advancing your acting and modeling business, and then we're going to go into the industry professionals that you need to know, and also how to market yourself and get work as an actor or commercial model. And then at the very end of that session, which should be around 5 o'clock, then we'll do another 30-minute. Just so that you know, I don't run the workshop or even my private sessions when I do private consultations. It's not like being at a lawyer's office where watching my clock and you're paying by the minute. What I do is I finish my session when I feel like I've given out all the information I could possibly give you. And so we might run longer, a little bit longer, and if you need to take off, that's fine. Don't forget it. This is recorded. You'll be able to see it later, but that allows me the freedom to, if I have an idea and something pops into my head and I start wandering and going off into other areas, that way I feel comfortable that I can do that because I'm not locked in to a very specific time slot, which is also one of the beautiful things about doing this online. I'm not renting a hotel room where we're going to be booted out at a certain time, and I can stick around. So anyhow, that's what's going to be happening today. Sometimes I know people are a little bit hesitant about asking questions because they think, oh, this is kind of a basic question and I'm not really sure, I should probably know this. Look, my feeling is you should know nothing. Now, I know some of you have had some real experiences in the industry, and some of you are just getting started, and some of you are kind of in between. So any question that you have is a very important question, and I'm not that bright of a guy. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, I'll answer all of your questions. I'll try. I'm not sure that I can. What I can promise you, though, is any question that you ask, I will treat it with the utmost respect. I'm not going to be sarcastic with you. I'm not going to say, oh, come on, you didn't know that? That's just not my style. If I find that it's a question that seems more personal, that I don't think everybody will benefit from, then I'll just say, look, let's talk about this one later. And either we'll talk during a break or after the session, or maybe on Monday we'll set up a time and I'll try to finish it up for you. So anyhow, if you do have any questions, please fire away. Okay, so let's start off here with commercial modeling. Look, everybody knows about the fashion world. If you are a woman and you want to be walking the runways of Paris and Milan and New York, you're going to be between 5'9" and 6 feet tall. You're going to have measurements, typically 34, 24, 34. You're going to be starting at a very young age. If you're over 21 years of age and you haven't already made it in the fashion industry, it's going to be very difficult at that point. I mean, certainly you can work much older than 21, but you're not going to get started past 21. If you are a guy, you are going to be between 6 feet and 6 feet 2. You're going to have a jacket size of 40. And essentially, every fashion agency has their own particular look. There are some fashion agents like Ford, where they want beautiful, all-American kind of looking models. There are some fashion agencies, and I've seen some of the models, where they are very hard, harsh. In some cases, it was kind of surprising to me. They looked sickly, but that was the type of look that certain agencies were going after. So basically, it's a very tough market to work in. They're kind of like NBA basketball players. You've got to be, pretty tall. You've got to have very specific skills. And there are a handful of people throughout the world who have tremendous success as a fashion model. There's a whole other world of modeling out there that has nothing to do with fashion, and it's called commercial modeling. And essentially, the commercial models are sometimes the beautiful people that you see in Gap catalogs. It could be in Abercrombie and Fitch. It could be ads for cruise lines where you see older commercial models, but just the women are beautiful, guys are very handsome, great bodies. And it runs the gamut from beautiful people to nerds to everybody in between. The person who is fixing your computer, the doctor, the lawyer, the teacher, the real estate agent, the mom. It's all over the place. The student, the infant, the grandparent. It's for real estate ads. It's pharmaceutical ads. And the thing that's also so cool with commercial modeling is that unlike the fashion industry, there are no age restrictions. They hire, 3-month-old, 4-month-old. I work with people in their 80s, and you will find this work everywhere, throughout North America, throughout the world. There are different kinds of looks that sometimes the commercial agents are looking for, but this is a worldwide kind of industry. Now, there is no union for commercial modeling, so the fees can vary drastically from location to location and project to project. There are some places where you might get paid $50 an hour if you're an adult commercial model. In New York City, the going rate is $250 an hour. Now, I can tell you in today's time period, it's much more difficult getting $250 an hour. Typically, they will either offer you a package where they'll pay you a day rate. Sometimes, it could be $200 an hour, it could be $175 an hour. It varies. It's all over the place. And also, it depends on how much money the advertisers have for this particular project. But the thing that's great is the hours are flexible. Lots of people have full-time jobs or they're full-time students. They go out and do this work periodically. And I can tell you, for most people, it's not about the money. Yeah, it's great when you get paid for a job, but for most people, it's the enjoyment of working with a photographer, of if they happen to have a makeup artist. I mean, that's always fun. I always like having my face played with. And seeing yourself, in a magazine ad, on a billboard, on a poster, in a newspaper ad. Those are really cool. And like I said, I mean, I've been doing this, full time for over 25 years, and I've done over 1,100 projects. And still, when I see myself in an ad, as a matter of fact, a perfect example. I was doing a workshop in South Carolina about a month ago, or actually like in October. And I'm driving down 95, which is a major interstate on the East Coast, and there's a truck coming up on the other side. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at the side of the truck. It was me. It was cool. It was an ad for the Virginia Lottery. And I'm sitting there screaming because I won $250,000 in this ad. But I thought, that's really neat. So once again, it's not about the money for me, even though it's how I make my living. It's about the enjoyment, the process, and the actual work itself. The auditions and the go-sees, that's the real work. When I'm actually on a set doing the work, to me, that's vacation. So let's start getting into this. There are a number of key things that you need to know about to give yourself your best chances of getting work as a commercial model. One of them is learning how to create the right photos, and I'm going to talk about those a little bit later. The other is a technique that I created, and it's called the recall method, where basically you're going to use your acting skills. And for those of you who might not have done any acting and you're getting a little bit concerned because you're going to start thinking, well, I really haven't done that much acting. How am I going to use my acting skills here? Look, you don't have to be a great actor to do this. You want to be able to do some very basic things, and I'm going to teach you how to do this, and you'll practice it. You'll have a homework assignment, and you'll get really good at it. One of the things that I do is when I walk onto the set, let's say I've been hired for the job, I'm going to ask the photographer, what are you looking for? And let's say the photographer says, well, you're a doctor and you're happy. Well, that doesn't really tell me very much, because like in any other kind of acting job, you want to try to get things very specific. So I'm going to ask the photographer, why is this person happy? Well, maybe the person's happy because he saved somebody's life. Okay, so that's one kind of look. Excuse me, let me turn this down all the way. Maybe the person is happy because he decided that he simply can't work in his medical practice by taking insurance. It just makes things way, way too difficult and too time consuming. So he decided to get rid of insurance. Well, that's another kind of happiness. Maybe there was a situation where he won a crazy malpractice case where, you know, all these people were, or maybe somebody was suing him about something and it got thrown out. So that's another kind of happiness. So basically, you want to find out very specifically, what are they looking for? With the recall method, what you're going to be doing is thinking of real experiences in your life that will give you the emotion that the photographer is asking you for. So if this is an ad, let's say for a local bank, or it doesn't have to be local, it's for a bank. And the whole concept of this brochure that they're putting together is, on the front cover of the brochure, you are a frustrated consumer because at all the other banks in town, they just treat you like a number. However, when you go to Bank of America, whatever bank it is, now they treat you like a family member, and you're warm and fuzzy, and you've got this wonderful feeling because you love how you're being treated. So on that opening shot, you're walking into the studio, you're going to ask the photographer, what are you looking for? And they might say, well, you're frustrated. Okay, why am I frustrated? And then the photographer will give me that explanation. So then what you want to do is think of a real experience in your life that where maybe you weren't treated well in a store. And don't forget, I'm going to be giving you a homework assignment that will cover pretty much most of the emotions that you're going to be needing, and then you'll be able to practice it, because then here's what happens. And during your photo session, it's going to be very different than anything else you've ever imagined or seen on TV as far as what takes place on a set. Instead of just standing there and smiling or trying to pretend or look like a model or posing for the camera, and by the way, get rid of posing in your vocabulary. You do not want to pose for the camera. You want to be real. You want to show real expressions and emotions. As a matter of fact, you want to show a variety and many layers of expressions and emotions. You want to give the photographer so many interesting choices that he's going crazy trying to figure out which one to use, because there are so many samples of different ideas that look great. That's what your goal is going to be. And that's the key reason, that's the main reason why I get booked as much as I have, because it's repeat business. It's like any other kind of sales job. You know, you do a great, you have a great product, so you sell somebody the product, they love it. Well, why wouldn't they want to buy it again? It's the same thing for acting and modeling. So what I do is this. If I'm on the set and they're telling me you're a frustrated consumer, here's what I will do. Because I've done my homework, but I'll share it with you so you can actually see it. I always go to the place where, when my kids were younger, I used to, and I was traveling a lot then, I still do travel a lot, but I used to always buy them snow globes. when I was at the airport. Those little things, you shake them up, little snowflakes come down. It shows different states that you're in. And I'm standing in line, and I've got 2 snow globes in my hand, and the cashier's on the phone. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm ready to buy this stuff. I want to go catch my plane. And that opening shot is going to be very small. Once again, he's asking for frustration. You're not being treated well. So that what I'm doing is I think about that experience. I'm standing in line. I could see it. I see the cashier. And here's what I do. Instead of just standing there and smiling and doing whatever I need to do in front of the camera, I look away from the camera. The very first thing I do is the photographer's got the camera, and I will put my hand up. I'll look away and I'll say, oh, could I just have a second? And what I do is I'm stopping the photographer from shooting because I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready for the photographer to start taking pictures. I need to prepare myself. Now, that preparation will take literally 1 second, maybe 2 seconds. That's it. So I'm going to put my hand up and say, oh, can I just have a second? I look away. I re-experience that situation where I am at the airport holding the snow globes, and I will say to myself very softly, okay, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to be taken care of. I'm ready to purchase this. Then I will look up with the frustration. Now, once again, that's going to be very, very small. So let me just show it to you. I'm ready. Okay, now I can't see myself. And by the way, I don't like using mirrors. Sometimes people will say, well, use mirrors to try to figure out different expressions. It doesn't work for me because if I'm staring at a mirror, I'm not really doing it. What's much, much better is just to get anybody to take some digital photos of you. Use a cell phone. It doesn't make any difference. And this is how you can practice it. So then that's the very first look. Look away. Hey, I'm ready. Okay, so that's one shot. Then I'm going to look away again, and I'm going to start building it up. And what I'm going to do here in about 20 seconds could be a 2 or 3 hour photo shoot. Now I'm going to look away. I'm getting more frustrated because she's still on the phone, and it might be, hey, come on. Now, that felt very different to me than the first one, and I'm assuming that that looked different to you as well. Let me build it up some more. I'm still standing in line. She's still on the phone. Hey, come on. Okay, now for the very last shot of the day, I am thinking, I don't want to blow the microphones out here, but now I'm very frustrated. I'm very angry because I'm overhearing this woman's conversation now, and here I thought she was just taking care of some business. She's talking to a friend, and she's making me stand in line while she's taking, while she's setting up plans for this evening. And the very last shot of the day might be, come on! Just because I'm just so outraged. I was just ready to drop the stuff and just walk out of there. That's what you want to do. And this holds true. It could be an ad for a jewelry store. And maybe somebody is proposing to you. And if you're a woman and there's a guy who's proposing, maybe you could do a shot where the guy's on his knee, the photographer is standing behind the gentleman, you see the back of his head, he's holding the ring up to you, and you've got this look of warmth and love, and you're starting to tear up. That is an interesting shot, and you've got to be able to show real expressions and emotions. You don't want to just pose. You don't want to just pretend. It's got to come from your heart, and it's got to circulate through your brain, and then it will shoot out of your eyes. And that is how you make it look real. So think of real experiences in your life that will give you the emotion that they're looking for. So you'll notice here on the screen, you're going to look away from the camera. You're going to create the right emotion by saying just a word or two. Sometimes it's just making a sound. Like when I did this lottery thing for the Virginia Lottery, and I won $250,000, it wasn't just saying a word, I am screaming. So I'm going to look away, and I'm not going to do the full scream here, but it's like, wow! And I'm just letting loose. And I was doing this for hours, just screaming my head off. Now, here I just said to you, well, you've got to think of a real expression and emotion based on an experience that you've had. Well, sometimes you're going to be asked to show things that you've never experienced. And those can be difficult. Like, for instance, with the lottery. I've never won $250,000. I have no idea what that would feel like. So here's what you do in those situations. think of an experience that is very similar. It's not the same thing, but for me, whenever I'm doing a multi-million dollar lottery look, I am thinking about when I used to play baseball and it's bases loaded, I'm on an all-star team, I hit a grand slam, we win the game, and everybody jumps up on top of me when I hit home plate. To me, that is my multi-million dollar lottery or $250,000 lottery look. So it has nothing to do with the lottery, but it will give me the same kind of emotion. So after you do that, you look up and boom, there's the shot. You look away and there's the shot. And you keep doing this all throughout the session. And what you'll find is that it's like a dance. And there's a certain rhythm. And if you're shooting inside and there are lights, the lights will flash, the camera goes, you look away, and then the battery pack recharges. And then, you come back up and then the lights, are shot, and then you keep doing this and you'll start getting into this rhythm and you'll know how long to look away and then come back up. This is how you make your expressions, your emotions real. You make the shots powerful. You make them interesting because there's life in your eyes. And that's what grabs the attention of agents, of photographers, the art and creative directors at advertising agencies. It's just an incredible way to make the shots look real. And that's what they want. They don't want models. They want people who look real. Now, there are 2 times you do not want to use this technique. One time, if the photographer says, I don't want to hear anything. Now, honestly, I don't know why they would say that, but it has happened to me once, maybe twice in my life. It's very rare. In that situation, look, they're paying me, they're my boss, and I'll listen to them. So then what I do is, it's called an internal monologue. I will actually think the words to myself. It's still happening in my brain. I'm not saying anything, but it still allows me to feel the life and feel the energy that I need to bring to the photographer. The other time where you don't want to use this technique is if you're working with another model who just isn't capable of working this way. And there are some people, it's kind of a shame, but sometimes you work with somebody who's not an actor, has no idea what they're doing. And this happened to me one time where there was a woman who was portraying my wife, and we were out celebrating. And to make a long story short, what I did was I put my hand, we were sitting at this beautiful table, and it's this gorgeous restaurant, and I put my hand across the table and I'm holding her hand and I'm telling her how much I love her and care about her, and it was important for the scene to have this kind of interaction, and the photographer shooting away, and in the middle of it, all of a sudden, I'm holding the woman's hand and she yanks her hand back and she goes, "What are you doing?" And I looked at her and I said, "I'm acting. You're supposed to be my wife, right?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, we're supposed to be in love with each other, right?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "That's all I'm doing here." I said, "I'm a very happily married guy. I'm not trying to pick you up. I'm not trying to have an affair in front of, 10 people on this set here. I'm just trying to make it look very real." And she said, "Oh." That's the time you also stop and you do an internal monologue where you think the words to yourself. So let me show you how this technique actually was used, and then you'll be able to see it. So if you're looking at the monitor, this was actually, it was a very difficult shoot. It doesn't look that complicated. Guy sitting in a chair. This is, it was a brochure for an IMAX film. It was what are those, like 6-story screens, and it's called Antarctica. And the whole concept of this ad, what was explained to me is, this film is so realistic, you feel like you were there. Now in Antarctica, it's freezing. I think in the summers it warms up to about 32 degrees. So the art director, the person from the ad agency, walked over to me and said, "Look, this movie is so realistic, you feel like you were there. However, because it's freezing, I don't want people to feel like they're going to be uncomfortable while watching the movie. So I want you to look like you're freezing, but having a good time." So at first I'm thinking, well, you know what? If I'm freezing, I'm probably not having a good time. And then Well, I started thinking about, well, how do I make this thing work? And then I started thinking, okay, well, I'm freezing, but maybe I'm outside with my family. We're playing in the snow. Okay, I'm freezing and having a good time. We did that for about 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden, bingo, he switched. He goes, okay, now, this movie is so realistic, you're frozen solid. Okay, we did that for a while. This movie, and then he switched it. This movie is so interesting. You're watching this film, and you don't even realize that you've got penguins and icicles and windburn and there's ice all over your mustache and stuff. And we did that for a while. And so that's what they wound up with. The guy who's freezing but having a good time. Here's a perfect example of the frustrated consumer, and this happened to be for a bank where, I'm having problems, people aren't taking care of me. This one, it was very funny. And the important thing here, and the reason why I'm showing you all these ads that I've done, is so that you can see how the emotions change the way that you look. And this is something that you all can do. Because sometimes people have said to me, it's unbelievable. You look like a different person from shot to shot to shot. And that's true. I'm kind of a chameleon that way. But it's only because I'm changing my expression and emotions based on what the photographer is asking. And that's why you'll see very, very different looks. So this one, it was funny. I got hired because they needed somebody who could do a really bad impression of Elvis. So there's a big carpet convention that takes place in Las Vegas, and I'm kind of a nerdy carpet salesman. But when you go to this convention, you will be transformed. And you see here, I'm transformed into a bad Elvis. Actually, it was pretty cool. They did fly in some costumes from Vegas for this. Some of you might have seen this because this ran on billboards throughout the Northeast. I know it was in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, I believe DC, and Virginia. And here I am for a pest control company. When you are setting up your shots, and I'm even going to talk to you later about getting photos taken free. And if for any reason, either I forget or I kind of go off into another topic and I don't come back to getting photos taken free, please raise your hand and remind me so I can share it with you. When you are getting started, though, and you're creating some new photos for your composite sheet, and we're going to talk about composite sheets later, but basically that is the business card for models. Actors have headshots, and I'm going to talk about those, and models have composite sheets. Normally you'll have anywhere from 2, 3, 4, 5 different photos on a composite sheet, and they come in all different sizes and shapes and formats. But when you're putting together your first card, my suggestion is when you're setting up these shots, don't use animals, don't use infants. It's the same thing. They're unpredictable. You have very little control over what they're going to do. And in this particular shot, this was done, actually this was in Richmond, Virginia. The guy was a great photographer, and the agent was wonderful. She called me ahead of time and said, look, they want to book you for this job. I just need to make sure, are you comfortable working with a monkey? And I'm thinking, are you kidding? Yeah, I love animals. I'm going to get a chance to play with a monkey all day. How cool is that? So I get onto the set, and there's Freddie, the capuchin monkey. And he jumps on my back, and he's picking at the back of my head. And I asked the trainer, what exactly does this mean? Oh, that means Freddie likes you. He's grooming you. You're part of the family. Okay, great. And so we're having a good time together. And we did 7 shots. And as you guys know, 7 photos, it's nothing. You're just getting started. I don't know what happened, but this little guy, Freddie, all of a sudden jumped off of my shoulders. And it was kind of like a nightmare. He's like flying in the air, and he's coming down. It felt like slow motion. And he jumps, and he bites the assistant photographer on the arm. And when you look at his teeth, they were sharp, they were long. It was like a surgeon taking a scalpel and just slicing this poor guy's arm open, and they rushed him to the emergency room. I mean, the guy was fine. He had stitches, but Freddie had all the shots, and it was scary because he was sitting by my carotid artery. This guy could have killed me. And the craziest thing was, a couple of minutes went by, and the guys rushed out, and Freddie was like running around the studio. And at one point, Freddie's sitting in the corner, and he's like licking himself, and it looked like he was getting rid of all the evidence, all the blood evidence. And the art director walks over to me, and I knew what was going to happen, and I was saying, please don't do this, don't do this. But it happened. He walked over to me and he said, this is a national ad campaign. I said, yeah, no, I know. And he looks over in the corner at Freddie and he goes, I don't know what happened, but boy, he looks calm now because he was just sitting there, grooming himself. He said, we only got about 7 shots. What do you think we can keep going? Because I really need to get this thing done today. And what I wanted to say to him was, what are you, crazy? You really think I'm going to let this monkey back on my shoulders? He just bit somebody. But I'm trying to be very professional about it. And I just said, look, I can't speak for Freddie, but let me just tell you, those 7 shots felt great to me. I mean, I really felt like it was nailed. Let's do this, because this was at a time where it wasn't digital. They were actually using film. I said, look, let's develop the shots, and I'll stick around. I think he got it, because that would have been the only time in my life where I walked off of a set. I would have done that. And the reason why I'm telling you the story, I think it's very, very important for you all to know. As important as these shots are to us, and as cool and as much fun as it is, there's nothing more important to you than your health and your safety. And if you were asked to do something on the set that you didn't agree to ahead of time, and you're not comfortable with it, and you feel like you're putting yourself in any kind of danger, say no. Because look, accidents do happen on sets. I've seen some. Look, I'm talking about a couple of times in almost 2,000 jobs, or not 2,000. I'm sorry, almost 1,200 jobs. It's so rare, but things can happen. Now, if you are asked ahead of time, hey, can you do these things? Like to make a very, very long story short, there was a woman I was told about who booked it was a print ad, partially because she could ride horses, and that's what they needed her to do. And so they asked the woman, can you ride a horse? She said, sure, no problem. And so they booked her, rented out this horse farm. They've got the horses and the trainers and all this stuff. And the photographer said to the woman, okay, so I just want you to trot, a couple times, go in this big circle. And, once you're comfortable on the horse and you got the feel for the horse, I want to see a gallop, because that's what we're going to actually do for the shoot. And you're going to be flying by me, your hair is going back, and I'm going to be shooting you. So the woman walks over to the horse, and she apparently must have been thinking, really, how difficult could this be? I'll get on a horse and they'll shoot me. She's probably been on, pony rides as a child, a number of times. Well, she walks over to this animal and she looks up at it and she realizes they're big. Horses are big. It's not like a little puppy. And she freaked. She couldn't do it. And so, fortunately for her, the woman who was the second choice for this job, who didn't get the job, lived in the area. They called her immediately. She was still available. And they brought her in and they fired the first woman. And the agent of that model, who lied about her skills, dropped her, said she would never work with her again. Fortunately, they were able to shoot it that day. Otherwise, that model could have been held responsible for all of the money lost that day if they had to reshoot it another day. And we're not talking about, a couple $100. We're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So the important thing is, as difficult as it is to turn a job down, don't lie about your skills. Okay, so let me just show you some other animal things. Just showing different kinds of expressions and emotions. And as you can see, this is all done from this method that I created, where you look away, say a word or two, or make a sound, and bring it back up. And you'll even see here, so here's some frustration. And you'll see different kinds of frustration. Some are more over the top, some are more subtle. 6 shots. This is something else you might want to consider doing, especially for your first couple of photos. And I'm jumping here. Like I said at the very beginning of the day, this is just how my brain works, and I want to be able to work this way. When you do your first or your next photo session, and you're trying to incorporate some of the things that I'm teaching you here, and I'm going to also teach you how to do your research and pick the right shots for you. before you spend money, more money, printing them onto a composite sheet, here's a suggestion. Why don't you take the 3, 4, or 5 shots, however many you have, and before you get them reproduced professionally, what you can do is go to any local printing place and scan the 4 or 5 photos just on a regular sheet of paper. Just take a plain sheet of paper, like this, except make it plain, and have 1, 2, 3, 4 shots on it, maybe 1 up here and then 5 here, just all on one side. Have your name, your contact information down here, your statistics, and then that's what you should use when you're meeting new agents. And that way you can sit down with the agent, show them some of your shots, and if the agent say, hey, these shots are great, then go out and spend the extra money getting them reproduced by a professional printer. Or it's possible the agent might say, you know what, I love your look, I think you're very marketable, I don't think these photos are going to sell you well. So that way you might have spent $1.25 printing up a sample composite sheet, and then you need to go out and get some new shots. But for a lot of people, they spend a tremendous amount of money doing the shoot, then they spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars reproducing them into composite sheets, only to find out that the shots just aren't working for them. So that's a great way of saving a bunch of money. So doing a 6-shot, when you're starting to do your research, and I know once again I'm kind of jumping a little bit, but that's where my brain is right now. One of the things you're going to be doing is you've got to be honest with yourself, and this is part of your homework assignment. Be honest with yourself and realistic. How are you going to be marketed? Look, I'd love to fantasize about having this look like Johnny Depp or Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt and this really handsome guys, and doing all these ads with beautiful women on my arms, and going up in hot air balloons, and smoking cigars and popping champagne, and doing ads for BMWs or Rolex watches, all these really high-end things. That's fantasy. I mean, you guys can look at me, you can see that's not my thing, that's not my look. So when I'm creating shots, when I have done that on my own, I mean, right now I'm pretty fortunate, I can pretty much use mostly shots that are actual ads. But when I was especially first getting started and then periodically needing to fill in for certain shots that I didn't have, I needed to find types of shots that would sell me. So I figured out my strength is I look like everybody's next door neighbor. I'm kind of like the Bob Saget look. I'm your doctor, not high-end doctor, family practitioner. Maybe I'm the pediatrician. I'm a lawyer, once again, not high-end lawyer. I'm the teacher, professor, scientist. I fix your computers, the manager at the bank, the guy that's approachable, the guy that you like. I know those are the areas where I'm going to be booked. So the first thing you have to do is be honest with yourself and get rid of your ego and get rid of all the fantasy stuff. And if you don't have a glamour kind of look, don't put together glamour shots. Or look, if you want to do that for your own personal stuff, that's fine. But if you're trying to get work, stick with your look. So one of the ways to help you figure this out, what's your look, is go to a bookstore. And actually, there are a couple other ways, and once again, I just jumped into like 3/4 of the way through the workshop, but that's where my brain is. I wanted to make sure I got it to you. But you can go to a bookstore and start looking at magazine ads. And what you're going to find is you're going to start going through tons of magazines that you think are right for you. And you're going to even find magazines on topics that you never even knew existed, which is pretty amazing. And for me, I'm going to go through, Time, People, Sports Illustrated, Reader's Digest, computer magazines, medical journals. Those are the kinds of publications where I know I'm going to see ads in there for types of shots that would be good for me. So start looking through tons and tons of ads. And when you see an ad that you can honestly say, that's me, I could do that kind of shot. And I don't mean that you look like the model. I just mean it's the right category for you. Then what you're going to do is make a copy of it. And that will be your blueprint for your future shots. And what you're going to find is, and you'll see here, you've got a 6-shot. You see these 6-shots year around. And what's really cool is not only do you want to just bang people over the head with the right look for you, so that when they're doing a pharmaceutical ad, whether it's an anti-inflammatory or some kind of blood clotting thing or vitamins or something like that, you want to bang people over the head with the look so that when they need that look, they can look at your card, your composite sheet, and go, oh yeah, that's the right person. And since you see these kinds of 6-shots year-round, you might want to seriously consider it. And especially if you've got a great look, you're a really handsome guy, you're a beautiful woman, then when you show a wide variety of a shot where you look great and then a shot where you look miserable, that's impressive. And it also allows you to be considered for many, many more types of shots. So if you look at the shot, this guy looks pretty sick. I felt pretty miserable. Here's another 6-shot. You'll also notice where the bottles are and stuff, you don't see any logos or brand names. It's very important. Do not show logos or brand names. Now, if you did an ad for a company and they show the logo or brand name, well, of course. But if you're doing test shots, never show them, because sometimes people think, well, if I'm holding a can of Pepsi in my hand, people might think I did a national ad campaign for Pepsi. Problem is, if there's an ad campaign for Coca-Cola and you've got this Pepsi thing that's a test shot, they're going to look at it and they're going to, let's not even consider that person. They work for a competitor. So don't use logos or brand names. Here's another sick shot. Now, that's a cool 6-shot. I love that one. This is for people with bad livers. And the problem is, people don't take care of their liver because they can't see it. So what they did was they made my face look like a bad liver. And you'll see in here, it's pretty gross, but I saw the anatomy book. That's what a bad liver looks like. So that's a really powerful shot. And I tried many, many different expressions and emotions for this one. Everything from I feel helpless, I'm hopeless, I'm angry, I've given up, many, many different looks, but I just think it's a very powerful shot. Now, for this one, this was fun. I was throwing Johnny Depp out of the courtroom. That's me. And there's Johnny Depp, who seemed like a really nice guy, even as a young kid. He was very nice to people. If you can see kind of closely here, that's the tear for Crybaby, and they use something called glycerin. Glycerin, it's like syrup. It's clear and it's thick, and you can put it on there. The makeup artist would put it there and it would just stay. So if you're doing an exercise shot, what you can do is you're out running around, your hair shouldn't be perfect, you should be a little out of breath when you're doing the shot, you should have some perspiration on your face. So as a recommendation, don't use glycerin, because if you get that stuff in your eyes, I mean, it looks great, but if you get it in your eyes, man, it's going to just ruin the entire shoot, because it's going to make them very, very red. It stings like crazy. So this is what you do for perspiration. One is you could actually just run around and really perspire. And in addition to, you can also get somebody to spray you with a little water bottle, just with some warm water. Very, very different kind of look. Here's a guy who's confident. He owns a .com company, very wealthy guy. That's pretty funny. It's a little hard for me to look at to see what I would look like if I ever had a change in my life. How women deal with long fingernails, I don't know. Maybe I just didn't get used to it, but I was like breaking them off. I'm trying to open up a door, go to scratch something, and all of a sudden I thought I was going to poke my eyes out. Molson Beer. I'm the rock grunge guitarist for Molson Beer, and this was cool. I got this because on my composite sheet, just like I shared with you, there was nothing on my card that made me look like a rock grunge guitarist. But the photographer who had worked with me before was able to convince the art and creative directors at the ad agencies that it's something I could do. And they could see many, many different expressions and emotions. They knew I could pull it off. So with the right wig, the right makeup, I also had music blasting in the background. I'm singing. That was pretty cool. Special effects makeup. Look, you are never going to be asked to do this kind of stuff. I mean, we actually spent more time getting the beard on and off than we did during the shoot. What you need to be able to do is basic makeup for the camera, because sometimes they don't have a makeup artist on the set. And so you want to make your face an even palette, so that if you wake up one day and there's something growing, on the side of your face and it wasn't there the day before, you can cover it up. If you've got circles under your eyes, you can conceal them properly. And so anyhow, you just want to make sure you learn how to do that. Here's some just more special effects things that I've been involved with, and it's always a little strange to look like what I'm going to actually look like in, 30 years. Whoa. Normally you're going to be stationary, and the photographer shooting you, you'll have a mark on the floor, you'll be seated. For this particular one, it's a product called Blast, and I was just blasting off, and the photographer said, yeah, I'll follow you, just have a good time. So you'll notice I'm trying out different ideas, I'm screaming, sometimes they would have me change wardrobe, but the important thing is for every shot, there's life. That was funny, didn't quite pull that one off. There's energy, and that's what they wound up with. Now, in today's time period, photographers can do things, art directors can do things that you simply couldn't do years ago. The great thing is, some of these shots are just unbelievable. They're beautiful. On the flip side, remember, quite often we get paid by the hour. So years ago, and some of you might not be familiar with this, but there was something called, I feel like a dinosaur here, Polaroid camera, where you take the picture and a little piece of film comes out, and 30 seconds, 60 seconds, it develops. You can actually see the image. And photographers would use that when they're setting up a shot. So if this were the shot, the photographer would take a Polaroid and then maybe adjust the lighting a little bit, maybe move some of the items on the set a little bit, because to try to fix it later and actually go into the film itself, it was very, very, very expensive. So sometimes we would spend, a half hour, 45 minutes just doing Polaroids, just adjusting everything to make sure everything is right. And now what you hear on the sets, don't worry, we'll fix it later, which means your time on the set is cut short. Also, years ago, like when this was pretty cool, flown to Hawaii to do a shot because they needed volcanoes in the background. Well, you guys know today, I'll be in front of a green screen or a blue screen in the studio, and they'll just, drop in the volcanoes in the background. So, you don't travel as much with the work, at least for those kinds of location shots. And the photo shoots, normally they just don't last quite as long. But these are some just really fun kinds of things. Now, here's a good example of just being able to just scream and let loose. You guys might have seen this one. It was a national ad campaign for Disney World. And the whole idea is, you came to Disney World as a family. Now the kids are older. Leave them at home. Come back as adults, but be a kid again. And so, just had to really be able to let loose. And just as a little side note, I made a mistake on the set. I'll never make it again, and I'll share it with you. So if you guys ever get booked by Disney World, you don't make this mistake. So I'm talking to the producer, and one of the shots was with Mickey that I had to do. So I was just kind of curious. I know there's Disneyland, there's Disney World, you've got Disney in Europe, in Japan. So I asked her, I said, so I'm just kind of curious, like, how many Mickeys do you have? And she looked at me and she was angry. And she said, Aaron, there's only one Mickey. So I learned very quickly, you don't ask that question. So if you're ever on the set, do not ask how many Mickeys there are. There's only one. Oh, there's my Virginia lottery guy. So this guy just won $250,000. And you'll notice this guy's not posing for the camera. He's not just doing a little, Home Alone kind of, this guy's really excited. He's screaming. That's what you want to do. I do good nerds. Sometimes it's always nicer to have an agent call and say, hey, Aaron, look, I know you're a talented guy. I'm sure you can pull this off. They need a nerd. As opposed to, yeah, they need a nerd. You've got to look for it. You know what? The reality is, doing the nerd, doing the good-looking guy pays the same. Once again, just being able to let loose, doing different kinds of expressions and emotions. Always loved this one. The only complaint I had, you kind of miss out on the pigeon up on my head, which was pretty fun. So here, I'm really excited. I get a phone call from one of my agents in New York. I'm doing an ad for the Wall Street Journal up in the city. And so I'm up on the set. The photographer gives me a newspaper, and I'm holding it like this. I said, oh, is this good? He goes, nah, I need a little bit higher. Oh, okay. Is this good? Nah, I need a little bit higher. So there I am. And that's me for the Wall Street Journal. Why they hired me for this, I have no idea. I guess they really loved my back. But it was fun. Okay, let me just, you know what? Let me do this. Let me do like a couple other little things. I know we've been going for an hour and 15 minutes here. I just want to try to finish up a couple sections, and then we'll take the 30-minute for a Q&A and then a little bit of a break. Editorial work, you guys have heard about editorials. You might not know specifically what they are, and I've done a number of editorials. Basically, an editorial is not an ad. An editorial is a photo that goes along with an article. Now, in the fashion world, sometimes it just means wearing the clothing in a shot. Typically, we get paid very little money being in an editorial. The reason for that is because, once again, it's not an ad. So the magazine isn't making money from advertising agencies placing an ad. As a matter of fact, the magazine actually pays for the editorial. The reason why they do that, and they'll pay for the photographer, for the model, sometimes the makeup artist or stylist. The reason why they do that is because they know that their readers will enjoy reading the magazine more if there are pictures. So when you see somebody on the front cover of whether it's Newsweek or even in a fashion magazine, the fashion models get paid very little money for editorial work as well. When they're doing, the front cover of Vogue or any fashion magazine, they're doing it for the exposure, for the greater chance that they're going to get hired for the multi-million-dollar cosmetic line. Well, for us, the commercial model, we're doing it because, well, when you do get paid, it's fun, and also you might get a great tear sheet, a copy of the shot, which you can use for maybe your next composite sheet, maybe for your agent's website as a way to help promote you and get more work. It's not unusual to get paid half of your hourly rate, or sometimes even less. And so another example of a story where I made a big mistake, and only once, because I learned from them, and I'll share it with you so you guys don't make this mistake. Got a phone call, it's going to be on the front cover of Newsweek, and I asked the agent, I said, what is it, 125? Because the going rate in New York, like I said before, it's $2.50 an hour. And typically you get paid half. So I said, is it 125? She said, yeah. I said, how many hours? She said, it's a 5-hour shoot. I said, great. And I'm excited. I mean, first, being on the front cover of Newsweek is pretty cool. And also, that's a lot of money. So did the job. And then when I got my check, and just so you know, in the commercial modeling world, typically it takes up to 90 days to get paid. I wouldn't even think of calling an agent before 90 days are up. And short answer of why that takes place, because the client waits until their billing cycle is up, they pay the ad agency, then the ad agency cashes the check, they wait for their billing cycle, send it to the photographer, the same thing happens, then it goes to the agent will take out their 20% commission fee, which is typical, and then they'll send us the check. So it takes a long time. So I get my check for this thing for Newsweek, and I noticed it was like a little, like, I don't know, like $100. It was $125 minus a 20% commission fee. So I called the agent and I said, I think there was a bookkeeping issue. She said, well, what's the problem? I said, well, it was $125 an hour, but I only got paid for 1 hour and I worked for 5 hours. And she said, oh, you must have misunderstood. It was $125 for 5 hours of work, not $125 an hour. So whenever you book an editorial, make sure you clarify that. Are you getting paid this much per hour, or is it for the entire day? And just as a little side note, I never accept or turn down jobs based on money. And I know that sounds a little weird for somebody who's making their living at this, but see, for me, it's not about the money. I mean, yeah, of course, I need to get paid, but for me, it's the enjoyment of doing the work. Also, I find that when I am working, it just seems to bring in more work, and I never know how important that new contact is for me. I'm assuming the photographer is going to love my work, and the advertising agency is going to love my work. Maybe there'll be another project that comes up that's a much higher paying job that they'll consider me for, because they're going to like what I did. And the other thing too is, I like to keep my agents happy. The reason why I would turn down a job, and this is something you guys should consider as well, if there's a product, if there's a company, if it's it could be an association that you aren't comfortable with, you do not want to support, you do not want to be connected with in any way, say no. And I know it's hard to say no for jobs for a variety of reasons, but this is your life. And I know some actors and models who will not do ads for furs, for meat products, for alcohol, for cigarettes. I know some people who won't do lottery ads because it's gambling and it's against their beliefs, which is fine. Whatever is important to you, but stick by your convictions, because those things can haunt you. And if you truly do not want to be associated, tell your agent up front. Just thank her very much. I really appreciate you, considering me for this and submitting. I just don't want to do it. And explain why. What you don't want to do is go to the audition or go to the go-see, which is the audition for models, book the job, and then turn around to the agent and go, yeah, I've been thinking about it. I'm a strict vegetarian. I really don't want to support fast food restaurants because they sell a lot of meat. That makes you look irresponsible. It makes the agent look bad. So with the editorial work, let me just show you some of these things in place. Now, you guys might not know this, but now you can tell your friends, a Maxim model. That's right. You're looking at one. This editorial was in Maxim magazine. Normally you wouldn't think of a guy like me being a Maxim, but there I am. And this is an article about how long do men live. And I'm the funeral home director. And in this article, they talk about if you eat a certain way, if you exercise a certain amount, get a certain amount of sleep, we can kind of gauge and figure out, how long you're going to live. So anyhow, that's an editorial. Sushi for Wimps, front cover of this book. There's a whole series, all kinds of wimp things. Another editorial for Philadelphia Magazine, how people are protecting themselves today. I think this was like Psychology Today, people with some anger issues. This was pretty cool. I'll give you guys a hint. It was a medical journal, and the article was about hemorrhoids. So these are things you're not supposed to do, like you don't go into the restroom with the New York Times and sit there all day long. It's not healthy for you. So, I'm supposed to be a guy that, it hurts a little bit back there when I walk. I'm not dying, but it's a little bit uncomfortable. Now, for the very last shot for this sequence, this was a Pennsylvania lottery ad. And you'll notice here, it's a special Valentine's Day with the top prize only being $1,000. So the whole idea is you give her chocolates and that's what you get. You give her flowers, hey, that's pretty good. But man, when you give her that Pennsylvania lottery, watch out. And quite often I've had people ask, how did they get all those kisses all over your face? And it's so funny because I just had a go-see on Thursday, was it Wednesday? Maybe Wednesday or Thursday, I can't remember, with the same photographer in Philadelphia. Really nice guy, Jim Graham. And he did the shot, we were talking about it. And what had happened was he walked in and I was in makeup, and he asked the makeup artist, who had a little stamp that with lips on it. She put lipstick on it, and he said, why don't you try the stamp, see what that looks like? And she clunked me on my head, and he looked at it and he's going, I'm not really quite believing that one. I'll tell you what, why don't you put some lipstick on? Her name was Jean, the makeup artist. Was very, very nice woman, actually she was beautiful too, which was fun. And he said, look, why don't you kiss Aaron once and let's see what that looks like. So she planted that little kiss on my forehead, and he goes, oh, hey, I like that. So, yeah, why don't you just kiss them all over? I said, that sounds good to me. It sounds like a pretty fun day at work. So anyhow, this is just another way of showing how you've got to be able to make changes, and you're going to be able to do this by showing different expressions and emotions by doing all of your homework. So for the homework assignment, figure out your type, make copies of the ads, and here's the next step. You're going to take a plain sheet of paper, and on the paper, and I'll use this thing again, you're just going to write on the top category line of the specific kinds of emotion you're looking for in this particular shot. So let's say, it's anger. That's the category. And then underneath it, make it specific. What kind of anger? What's making you angry? There's another shot. You're happy. Okay, so why are you happy? Make it specific, because you've got to be able to reproduce the real expressions and emotions that you're seeing in these sample ads that are going to be your blueprint. Then the next step is think of a real experience in your life that will give you that emotion. So maybe you've got 3 or 4 or 5 different emotions that you're working on. Then just get anybody to take some snapshots of you. Once again, it could be a cell phone, it could be a digital camera, it doesn't make any difference. And you're going to think of the experience, you're going to look away from the camera, say a word or two, make a sound to yourself, bring the look up, and do 3 or 4 different looks. And then look at it and be honest with yourself. Does this look real? Do you really look like you're in love? Do you really look like you just scored 1600s on your ACTs? Does it really look like you hit the lottery? Whatever it is, if it looks real and believable, you've got it. And every time you're doing these test shots with photographers, every time you're going to a go-see, the audition, every time you're on a set, this is how you're going to do it and show real expressions and emotions. Okay. So the next step is you've got to find a photographer. And this is where the free thing comes in, so you don't have to remind me later. What you can do is this. Before, and I'm not trying to have people not use professional photographers, of course. That's what you're going to ultimately do. But there are ways of testing out your ideas at absolutely no cost to you. And I know people that have developed an entire portfolio with free photos. Here's how you do it. Once you are ready, you've got the expressions, you got the emotions, you've got the right wardrobe. And keep in mind, this is very, very important. Your wardrobe should be like nice wallpaper. It should enhance your image, but you don't want people looking at it. So if somebody looks at your photo and they see this blouse that has all these beautiful stripes and stuff in it, that's a problem. If they see earrings and necklaces or rings that's grabbing their attention, that's a problem. You want people to focus on you. So get rid of all these extra things that are taking the attention away from your face. Something that you're going to find is that you don't want to show a lot of skin down here. You don't want to show a lot of skin on your arms because people's eyes tend to go to the lightest part of the page. So if there's a lot of skin over here, that's what people are looking at first, and then they're going to look up in your face. So what I suggest, sometimes doing layers is really helpful, and it doesn't have to be this way, but if you can, if you have like a V shape, and I'm going to show you slides of this later, when you're wearing like a V shape with maybe something underneath it, it forces your eyes to go right up into the person's face. So your wardrobe is important. Also the location, where are you going to do some of these shots? Do you have access to a school? If you're going to do a shot as a teacher and maybe you're mentoring a young child, do you have access to a classroom? Do you have access to a hospital, to a law office, to a bank, to an outdoor cafe? There are many, many different types of places you can shoot these things. So you got the right expressions and emotions, the right props, the items that make it look like a real ad. Once again, if you are a student, maybe you're sitting at your desk, you're studying for your MCATs, for your SATs, your ACTs, and you're frustrated because you just don't get it. So the props on your desk, it's going to be a book, a lamp, pencil, paper, maybe crumbled up pieces of paper, maybe a cup of coffee, whatever is appropriate for you. Make the shot look like a real ad. Don't just do these little pose smiley shots with different wardrobes, different backgrounds. Make the shot look like an ad. So essentially what's going to happen is you are producing these new shots. Instead of doing what most people do and they go to a photographer and they'll say, so, well, what do you think we should do? Instead of doing that, you're walking into the session saying, this is what I want to do. That's a powerful way of going into it. All you're looking for is a shooter. So a way that you can do that is, once you're ready, everything is put together, now you just need somebody to shoot it. I would go to a local college, community college, university in your area, and I would find out if they have photography classes in the art department. Assuming they do, speak to the instructor. And you're going to show the instructor some of these copies of ads that you have. And just say to them, look, I've got some great ideas for some very, very strong commercial shots. Do you have any students who are interested in building up their commercial portfolio? And I'm sure you're going to find some students. And you're going to work out a deal. You're not going to charge your regular hourly commercial model rate. which could be anywhere from 50 to a couple $100 an hour, and they're not going to charge you anything because they're students. And something else that I would do, I would write a very, very brief contract out with any student that you're working with. And basically what you're going to say is this: I am giving so-and-so, put the student's name, permission to use my image for promotional purposes only. So let me say that again in case you guys are writing it down. I am giving, and put the student's name, permission to use my image purposes only. You sign it, they sign it, date it, have 2 copies, you keep a copy, they keep a copy, and that way, if they want to use it on their website to promote their photography work, great. If they want to put a composite sheet together to promote their photography work, that's wonderful. Just like you will as well. You might use it on your composite sheet. You might use it on your website or your agent's website or some company's website to help promote you. But that photographer, that student, cannot sell your image for profit for any money without your permission. Now, legally, they couldn't do it anyway. Well, they can do it. Legally, they can. I mean, you could sue them without getting a release. And we're going to talk about release forms later. But sometimes when they actually have to sign something, it might make them think twice before trying to, do that kind of stuff. So that is a great way to try to get some shots taken free. Then the next thing is create a sample composite sheet, and I explained that to you already. So let me just show you, and then we're going to take a little bit of a break. I went through magazine ads, and you'll see here, this is a great shot. It could be an ad for many different things. Some really, really interesting shots. Now, the thing about this one, I love the idea, and without a doubt, maybe that's something that would be a very appropriate shot. And this could be for AAA. This could be, it is for, puncture seals. You got a flat tire. I love the concept of it, but you know what? You guys are going to do a much better job of this than she is. When you look at her face, I don't believe her for a second. If I get a flat tire, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm thinking, I can't believe I got to deal with this thing. It's a pain. But to me, she's got this look on her face like a monster is jumping over the hood of the car. It just doesn't seem to work. But anyhow, I love the idea for the ad. Love seeing this kid in there. Great relationship shot. Now, I made a mistake here, and I'll show you guys. This was one of the first shots I did, and this was a test shot. Worked out a deal with a photographer. We traded services. I put this cap on, and I just simply didn't know I shouldn't have cores. And there were a couple people that saw this on my composite sheet, loved the shot, but they couldn't use it because it had cores on it. And at that time period, it was just too expensive to try to get rid of it. Just another good example of when I said working with animals and kids. I live in Baltimore City. I live in the suburbs, but I'm in the city. And I set up this entire shot. And let me tell you, trying to find a pig in Baltimore City is very, very difficult. But I did. And so I got this little guy, and he was so sweet. Loved this guy. But he wouldn't stay still. And I don't know how many of you have had experience with little pigs. I'm not sorry, but I can't remember their names. I know there's a name for a little pig. But anyhow, he wouldn't stay still. He's squirming. He's trying to jump out of my arms. I'm talking to him. I'm singing to him. I'm petting him. I'm scratching him. I'm pleading with him because the photographer is saying, hey, if you can't calm him down, we can't get the shot, because he was literally like jumping all around. Out of nowhere, I don't know what happened, this little guy pees all over me. He got that smile on his face, and we got the shot done. And one of the reasons why the shot works so nicely, well, one is you'll notice how I cropped it pretty high up there, but we have the same smile. It looks like we're related. So anyhow, don't use animals or little kids. Here's another test shot. I saw a very, very successful commercial model's composite sheet. He had a shot kind of similar to this, and I decided to incorporate it because I needed a shot where I was a dad, and once again, I want to bang people over the head with the look. I look like a dad, and I wanted a shot where I looked like a business guy. So what I did was I combined both of those concepts, and it was a good shot for me. Here's another shot, and this is something perhaps you can do. This is a test shot, but once again, I'm always thinking, what's the ad? Who is this for? I was thinking this is an ad Now, I had two different ideas. It could be a reading program for young kids. Or you got to start them off at a young age. I was also thinking this could be for a 529 plan, and those are plans for parents to start putting away money for college education into it's called a 529 plan. And I thought that was a very interesting idea. It also could have been a life insurance ad. What happens, make sure that you're covered for the times you aren't going to be there. So show real expressions and emotions, set up the shot so it looks like a real ad, find the props, the location, and that's how you make a really, really strong commercial photo. And that was also a very fun day doing a test shot. This is a cool, pretty shot. That's a pretty cool shot. I love this one. She had a great workout. I believe her. You'll notice her hair is a little out of place. There's a little perspiration. And she probably is a hand model as well without having just one photo, of her hand on her card. She's able to show that her hands look great in that shot. So that's a really, really powerful shot. Nice relationship shot. I like this ad, but here's the interesting thing is the props are great. The location's perfect. This thing bothers me a lot. When I first looked at it, I thought, is that like a lobster sitting in between? What's going on? And that's a glove. Okay. The other thing that I don't like about this is, here's probably what happened. The photographer probably said to this guy, okay, look in this direction. Let me see a nice big smile. Great, we got it. And he said the same thing to this woman, but when you look at her face very closely, I don't believe her. I don't think she's really thinking about what's making her smile, and it's posed. She looks like a model. So remember, when you're doing these shots, either you're going to be doing that internal monologue so you can really show some expressions, or say a word or two and look away from the camera and bring it up, because you've got to know why you're smiling. And it's up to you to decide what is making you smile. But if you don't, and you just follow directions, that's kind of what you end up with. Love that shot. What a great relationship shot. Another wonderful relationship shot. This is great. I mean, I never would have guessed in a million years that this is for deodorant, but I believe that those two people are having a great time together. Nice exercise shot. You'll notice people aren't so clean, which is great. Okay, let's do this. Actually, let me just finish this one little piece up, and then then we will take a break, because I know I've been holding you guys in there for a long time. So for homework tips, here's a couple of other places where you can get ideas for your photos, along with going to bookstores. But here's something else. You can go to photosearch.com and just look at the spelling of it. It's F-O-T-O, and Getty Images. These are companies. They are called stock photography companies. Stock shots are not ads. Stock photos are shot by stock photographers. And what they do is they come up with really interesting ideas for shots that actually look like ads. And they have to be generic enough so that they can be used by a number of different companies. So there are plenty of commercial models that get hired to do stock photography. Now in New York, the going rate typically is about $75 an hour, which is much, much, much less than if you were hired to do an ad. But the reason why you get paid such a small amount is because they're shot on spec. The photographer has no idea whether all the time and money invested in putting the shot will ever get rented by an advertising agency. So what they do is they pay the model, it's still a pretty good amount of money, but much less, in the hopes that a lot of companies will rent it. So on the positive side, the reason why a bunch of models do it is because not only do you get paid something, but you'll get an incredible photo that looks like an ad, because it has to be camera ready. It has to be ready to go right into the magazine. So the advertising agencies can simply rent the shot. So those are the advantages. You'll get a great photo, and also you'll get paid for it. But here's the potential danger of doing stock photography. And I did a couple many years ago. I don't do them anymore. Here's the problem. When you do a stock shot, you will sign a release form, and I'm going to talk about the release form later on. But basically, in this release form, you're going to sign away the fact that the photographer can use your image through any medium and through any purpose whatsoever. And he has to be able to do that. He needs your signature because he doesn't even know specifically, what company wants to pick up this ad. These stock photo places, they have all these stock images. People come in, they rent it, they pay a certain fee. The fees go to the photographer. So the problem is when you are you're doing stock photography, you, the model, you have no idea where you're going to end up. And you could be ending up in an ad that you're very uncomfortable with. It could be an ad for a certain disease. And you could be the spokesperson. You're the one with this disease, and you could be up on billboards throughout North America, and you might not be too thrilled with that. The other problem when you do stock photography, because you don't know where you're going to end up, is sometimes, and I'm finding this more in my age category, especially for pharmaceutical work, and I've also seen it with insurance, actually, but I've also seen it, even recently with hospitals in the medical world, where you will be asked, do you currently have any ads running that are competing with this particular company? So if you did a stock shot, you have no idea. And if you say to this company, no, I don't have any ads for any other anti-inflammatories, and unbeknownst to you, your face is up on a company for an anti-inflammatory, you didn't even realize it. That could create serious problems. So it's up to you. I never tell people what they should or shouldn't do. I'm just explaining the benefits and the potential dangers of doing stock photography. But the reason why I'm showing you these two sites, it's a great place for research, because what you can do is go to either one of these or both of these places, and if you think that you should be doing a shot as a teacher, what you do is you do a search and you type in teacher, and you're going to see a ton of stock shots of teachers, and it will give you more ideas. So anyhow, that's what you're going to be doing. Practice getting the right expressions and emotions, figuring out how to create these really strong commercial shots, making them look like ads, finding a photographer, getting them taken, create a sample mock-up composite sheet, and then you're going to start showing those things to agents. So let me do this right now. Actually, I'm just going to show you. I know I lied a couple times here. Here's a stock shot, just so you guys can see it. It's a very, very nice shot. And you think this could be an ad for long distance service. It's a great shot of both of those people, but that is a stock shot. Okay, so let's do this. Before we take the official break, I'm going to stop right now. Joel, could you ask and see if there are any questions whatsoever right now? And I'm more than happy to take any questions. If not, then I was thinking maybe we could take about a 10-minute break and come back at 10 of. But are there any questions at all?
Aaron, we have a question from Len, and
okay.
He writes in, find your look, just what is my look, ?
Okay, great question. So what you're going to be doing is this, and I talked a little bit about this earlier, but you've got to figure out, are you the teacher? Are you the doctor? Are you the real good-looking guy? Are you the football coach, the plumber? And one of the ways of helping you figure that out is simply by going to the bookstore and looking at ads. And when you see ads of other models in these shots, you can be honest with yourself, and you'll be able to look at it and say, you know what, that is a shot that I can do. And I don't mean, once again, I don't mean that you look like that model, but it's the right category for you. And the other thing that you could also do when you are setting up some meetings with agents, especially if, and I'm going to talk more about agents later, but some agents they're called open calls. And not all agents offer this, but some of them do. And an open call is basically, some agents, they might have them once a week, could be once a month, could be twice a month, could be twice a year, where they see new people. And you call them up, set up a time, you go in there, you sit down, talk with the agent, and that would be a great question to ask one of the agents. How do you see me being cast? What kind of categories do you think would be right for me? And just be prepared. I mean, there are some agents who are very sharp and will be able to give you very specific details. And sometimes, you might be dealing with somebody who's very new at an agency and they might not have the answers that you're looking for. But I think that would be a very, very important question to ask an agent. But better yet, just look at ads that you're seeing and then, be honest with yourself and see, is that a kind of shot that I could actually do? We're going to start talking about composite sheets. And like I mentioned earlier, composite sheets are used by models, headshots are used by actors. The important parts of putting together these shots, as you can see up here on your screen, make your photos look like ads. We talked about those earlier. Make them look like they're ads for specific products and show a variety of expressions and emotions. So let me start going through a bunch of composite sheets here for you so you can actually see what other people have done. And you'll notice that a lot of times on a composite sheet, you'll have one shot on the front and then a few shots on the back. It doesn't have to be that way. Some people put all their shots on the front. I'd say the majority of people, though, will have one photo on the front, a few on the back. Some people have four-sided comp cards. But when you're first getting started, don't worry about that. You're going to have a limited amount of photos. So quite often they'll use a headshot for the front of their card and then the shots on the back. So you'll see here for Barbara, look, she's not going after the 90210 look. She's a grandmother, and these are the kinds of shots that she's going to get. These are very, very good photos. Here's the front of the card, and here's the back of the card. And I like some of the shots in here. That's kind of a headshot. I like this kind of shot. It might be a test shot, but this can be an ad for investments, for vacations, for retirement. I like him as the doctor in here. I'm assuming this is for this particular hospital. Otherwise, I would suggest not having it there. Here's a typical kind of comp card where, once again, you have a headshot on the front, 4 shots on the back. You can tell it's an older style card, but I love this shot here. It puts her into the category of a mom. She looks great in the shot. I like the expression. For this one, it's a very good shot. And the only thing is, I think she just kind of missed the mark. I mean, normally as a nurse or a doctor in that kind of situation, you want to show concern for the patient. To me, she kind of missed it a little bit, and she kind of looks like as soon as you're going to walk out of that room, the pillow's going over that kid's face. She looks a little angry in there. Here's the front of the card. Here's the back. I really don't think that this really was an ad for this particular product, so you're kind of cutting yourself out of ads for competing cereals. And you'll notice here for these shots, the shots just aren't all that interesting. If you're going to do a body shot, if you've got that kind of look, there are much better ways of showing body parts than just kind of spreading out on the beach. This kind of shot really isn't showing me very much, and this isn't showing me very much, so it's not a very strong card. Michael, this is a 4-sided, so here's the front, or actually that's actually the front. You open it up, you've got all these, and that's on the back. Michael, I think, was the most successful commercial model I ever knew. He retired, got out of the business a number of years ago. But you'll notice just a variety of different shots that he's done. But the amazing thing is, Michael happens to have one of those looks. He's got a great, great commercial look, very handsome guy. And Michael looks like Michael in every shot. He doesn't have to do like what I do and show a variety of expressions. His look is so good and so strong that he was getting work just from his specific look. This was the shot that I borrowed for my baseball shot that you saw with the guy and the girl and the woman playing my wife. But anyhow, Mike was also a hand and foot model. And you'll see here, this is a great way of showing that. Now, once again, when you're first getting started, I wouldn't have separate shots like this. Maybe you can just incorporate those body parts in your shot so that they're visible. And then maybe later on, for your second, third, fourth comp card, then maybe you can show, just a hand or a foot. This is talent, being able to do something like this. Very, very talented toes on this man. And this is how body parts are typically shown. Here's another composite sheet. And by the way, they're called comp cards. composite sheets or Z cards. On the West Coast, for some reason, they call them Z cards. Maybe they were invented by some guy named Zed. I never really got the true answer. Okay, so on this composite sheet, you'll see here's the front of the card, this is the back. Here's the shot that I want to show you. I absolutely love this shot. I don't know if it's an ad or if it's a test shot. And just so that you guys know, the test shot, it means it's like a practice shot. It's a shot that you're using for your portfolio or your composite sheet, but it's not an actual paid job. But this could be an ad for a lot of different things. So if you have access to a classroom, if you have access to a kid, you can set up the shot. It's not that much different than that shot with the young child sitting on my lap in the rocking chair. This is interesting. Here's the front, and then these are in the middle. This is on the back. I love this opening shot. You know, this is a guy, if I were a photographer or somebody from an ad agency, I would cast him as the very wealthy, successful business owner. Maybe he lives out on on a horse farm. Maybe the guy's an insurance salesman. You know, either case, he's got a great look. But then look what he does, and this is interesting. Basically, and this is what a lot of people do, he repeats himself. So you've got this shot smiling straight into the camera. Here's another shot, straight, smiling right into the camera. So it's kind of a waste. You're not showing me anything different. He does the same thing over here, smiling straight into the camera. That's 3 shots of the exact same look. Now, what could be interesting in here is some kind of relationship shot, but still don't just, you know, plop somebody else in there and say, well, it's a relationship shot. You want to be thinking, what is this an ad for? What's going on here? So for a shot down here, that's not his fault, but you know, look, he's got a desk, but there's nothing there. It's blank. He's got a telephone, he's got a pair of glasses, and that's it. You're a business guy? I want to see a desk filled with business things. On the expression, it's just kind of dead. There's nothing going on here. He's a project manager, he's an architect, he's an engineer. Okay, I believe that. Now, sometimes you don't have the ability to go out on location and shoot. Sometimes you're working with a photographer and they're going to say, look, I'm only going to shoot in the studio, which I completely understand. But if you can, if you do have that option, go out to a location. I could see him holding blueprints. He's explaining to somebody else. He's pointing and then he's pointing up, you know, explaining, okay, so I need this thing to be moved over here. Something going on so it looks like an ad for a product and not the model staring. And for the very last shot, I have found that you don't want to do something potentially controversial. So if you happen to run into a photographer or an art or creative director is uncomfortable with guns, it kind of freaks them out, or rifles or shotguns, whatever it is, you know, maybe it's not a good idea to have it in there. But even if you really think that you know, you want to be the poster child for the NRA, you want to try to do, you know, a bunch of, you know, ads for them. All right, then I could see doing it. I'd still be very cautious, but even still, if you're going to show something like this, look, you've got to make sure you know what you're doing. And when you're loading shells into a shotgun, you don't want to be looking off and smiling someplace else. You want to see what you're doing so you don't blow your foot off accidentally. So please don't just do another smiley shot straight to the camera. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the 7 shots. It's the same look over and over and over again. It's just wasted space. So for this particular one, here's a guy who, without a doubt, he's got a good commercial look. You know, I'd buy him as a doctor. I'd buy him as a business guy. I could see him being a cyclist. I could see him, you know, walking out of the museum, you know, sophisticated guy. But look what happens in here. What in the world is this doctor doing on a street corner in, you know, downtown Philadelphia with a baby? It's like, what did he kidnap this kid? Is he selling this kid on the street corner? Come on. I want to see this guy in a hospital setting. I want to see him in an emergency room. I want to see, maybe this is a special doctor who cares about his kids so much he actually makes home visits. That I would like to see. Not some guy on a street corner with a baby. It just doesn't make any sense. It's screaming out to the world, I'm inexperienced, I don't know what I'm doing. These aren't real ads. And so here he's got, a business shot. All right, business guy, but he looks dead. There's nothing going on. You've got to know what's happening. If you're on a cell phone, make sure you know who you're talking to, what the conversation is, what exactly is happening in here. A cyclist, okay, but what is this an ad for? He's like a walking billboard. He's got tons of logos all over the place. It's not good. And this really should be some kind of relationship shot, but not some guy just kind of staring off into space. So basically, here's a guy who said, I'm sure he spent a bunch of money, hired a photographer, although the shots do kind of look like they were all done around the same time period. The lighting looks very similar, different wardrobe, a little bit of different expressions, but really not that much different. And basically, it's a card that's probably not going to get him much positive attention. Okay, this is a really nice composite sheet. Here's the very front of the card, and then you open it up, and you've got all these different shots, and then there's a shot on the back as well. But look, he's the business guy. I like it. He's the successful business guy. This could be an ad for a number of things. A nice relationship shot. This could be an ad for a bunch of things. This could be for, once again, golf places, retirement. It could be vacation stuff. It's a good doctor look for him. Another good relationship. Almost looks like he's got two wives in that one, but anyhow, but it's a really good comp card. The only change and suggestion that I would make is I'd like to see these shots separated, framed out a little bit so they're not all kind of smushed together, but he's a very successful guy. You've seen him all over the place. Here's a comp card that also I think just kind of misses the mark. So she put a headshot on the front, and she's got 3 shots down here. For the headshot, and I know it's a little bit dated, but it serves as a good example of some things that aren't going to be very helpful. To me, first of all, if you look at the earrings, those things are huge. They look like parachutes. My eye just kind of is drawn to it. And the other thing too is, and I think this is what happens sometimes for people who aren't comfortable during the photo shoot, where basically they've got almost like an angry look about them. For your commercial photo, for your commercial headshot, you want to be approachable, somebody who's friendly, somebody who's likable, somebody that they want to represent their product. And to me, she just kind of looks a little angry in here. And that's one of the key things when you're sitting down and talking with a photographer. Look, there are a lot of really good photographers out there. One of the key things that you want to do when you're going to meet a photographer, and without a doubt, you've got to meet with the photographer in person before you hire them. You want to ask them about ideas that they have, suggestions. Like when you had asked earlier about what kind of categories, I'd ask a commercial photographer as well. And look, you might get a lot of very different opinions from different people. And sometimes you kind of have to filter what people are saying, but it's helpful just to get different perspectives, and then you make the final decision. But one of the key things, assuming that the person is a good shooter and that the photos are in focus, the people look interesting, but here's the key element before you hire a photographer. Make sure you're comfortable with the photographer. And I've heard lots of stories with certain models who've gone to shoot with somebody and they've got great reputations and they're told how great they are, and they are. But for whatever reason, they just didn't feel comfortable with the photographer. I wouldn't use them, because no matter how good of a shooter they are, you might fool some of the people in the room, but you're not going to fool the camera. And if you're not fully relaxed and really engaged with the photographer, it's going to show up in the pictures, and you're going to see some of this uncomfortability. Here's an exercise shot, and without a doubt, she's got the body type to do it. The problem is, make sure you know how to play the sport that you're doing the shot in. I look at this kind of shot, and I think, well, that's kind of silly. You don't play racquetball that way. She kind of looks like half dancer, half racquetball player. It just doesn't make sense. If you do have the body for, let's say, a swimsuit or something like that, great. Then definitely use it, but don't chop your legs off, because that's partially what you're trying to show. And then, she's got this shot in here. I just don't know what's going on in there. I just don't think it's a very attractive shot. It's not saying anything. It's not really being very helpful to her. So this also is a good example of a shot with somebody who's got, you know, who's got the look to do things, but she simply didn't have the information. And I'm assuming that this card really wasn't taken all that seriously. This breaks all the rules of what I was talking about. Show different expressions and emotions, making the shots look like different ads. Well, he does show different expressions and emotions. None of them look like ads, but I love this kid. You know, he looks cute. He is showing different kinds of looks. I think it's a very, very nice card for him. So basically, for your commercial shots, you know, once again, do your homework. You want to practice this. If you want, try to get some shots taken free. You can also, look, when you are working with a student, the worst case scenario, the shots are bad. Technically, they're just really, really poor and you can't use them. But still, you're going to look at the shots and say, you know what? This looks like an ad. I like my expression. I like the emotion, but technically it's just not a good enough photograph. In which case, then you just find another student. Best case scenario, you just got some shots taken free, and these are wonderful photos for you. And what could also be great is maybe this is a student who's really trying to market himself or herself as a commercial photographer. You know, the person worked with you, liked working with you, and if a project comes up, you know, they just got booked for, well, why wouldn't they want to hire you? So anyhow, that's what you want to do. That's how you create some shots. And I'll talk later about how to find photographers, but there are a number of different ways, but I'll get into that later. Okay, commercial headshots. This is what actors use for their portfolio, well, not portfolio, this is what they use to take into every audition that they have. There are times where, because of today's technology, as a matter of fact, this just happened to me in New York. I had an audition for a TV commercial. I brought in a headshot, but they didn't need it because my headshot was already on their hard drive from the agent's website or from the company's website that the agent uses. But typically, you're going to bring in a headshot. So you want your headshot to capture the personality that you want to present to the world. So once again, you want to be presentable in your presentation, in your headshot. You want people to feel comfortable with you. You want people to be able to immediately know what kind of categories are right for you. So for me, once again, the guy you like, the guy you feel comfortable with, somebody that you trust, somebody who's successful, somebody that you would want to represent your company. That's who I am in the commercial world. So if you look at a headshot like this, some of the things that I would do differently, and I can also tell you pretty much everybody does color today. Very, very few people use black and white. I did hear some rumors that in Los Angeles, they're kind of going back to the black and white headshots. I'm not 100% sure that that's true, and it has not hit the East Coast yet. Also, when you're doing these shots, you don't necessarily look away from the camera like in the other, like for the commercial print stuff, but you've got to have a running monologue going on in your brain, because that's what's going to give your eyes the life that you need. When you look at a headshot, that's what's going to tell you if it works or not. Is there some energy coming out of your eyes? Now, I like her eyes in here. I don't know what she's thinking of, but there's something that's grabbing me, something that's pulling me in. And if I were a casting director, and we'll talk about casting directors later as well, casting director, they are thinking, okay, so what category am I going to book you in? Well, I could see her in soap operas. She is a doctor. She is a successful entrepreneur. She could be the teacher. She's the newscaster. But she's grabbing me. And one of the things that I would change, one is it's a little bit too tight of a headshot. It is true, things have changed a little bit because of today's technology. And if your photo, if you know your photo is going to be on a website, then you might not want to show a half body or 3/4 body shot. The reason for that is because you actually can get lost. Your face can be lost if you're on a website and so much of you is being shown. So you might actually crop it so that it is a little bit tighter, but I still wouldn't necessarily crop it quite this tight. The earrings bother me a lot. It just kind of stands out a little bit too much, but otherwise I like her face in here. Sometimes people will say to you, when you're doing a headshot or any photos, I need to see teeth. What's the matter? Are you trying to hide something? Are you trying to tell me, what do you have, like one tooth in your mouth or something like that? I don't believe that theory. It depends on your look. It depends on the image you're going after. Barry is a very talented guy. He plays the bad guy a lot. Yeah, he's the kidnapper. He's the sniper. He's the bad guy. If he had a big toothy smile grin, it's not as effective as a photo as something like this. To me, he looks like the cat who ate the canary. He's got that little mischievous look in his eyes that kind of scare me a little bit because I can't really quite get a handle of who he is. And that is a great headshot for him. Gail is from the Midwest. She's got that all-American friendly kind of look, and it's a good headshot for her. One of the changes that I would make, though, is the earrings kind of jump out a little bit at me. And the other thing, too, is when you're connecting your resume to the back of your headshot, I suggest stapling all four corners. I don't like stapling into heads. I don't like stapling into a neck. It looks like a weird, kind of piercing, and it kind of takes my attention away from looking at her. Sean did stand-in work, which means when actors are hired and they're getting ready to set up a scene and they're getting the lighting corrected and they're getting the cameras all set up, they'll hire somebody who sometimes looks like the actor. You don't necessarily have to, but you do have to be the same height, have the same build, and same body type. So when they give you the actor's wardrobe, all the lighting can be focused properly and things will look just perfect. And then when they're ready to shoot, they'll call in the first team, the principal actors. The second team, the stand-ins, go off. And he did a lot of stand-in work for Denzel Washington. Very talented guy as well. I've done stand-in work on a number of projects, and if you ever get an opportunity to do stand-in work, it's a great learning experience. He does a horizontal headshot, which some people like that idea because they think, well, directors look at movie screens in a horizontal fashion and it kind of fits in more the way their brain works. I really don't buy into it, and my headshot is not horizontal. Here's a good example of somebody who's got a great smile, but they're not thinking during the photo session. Remember, you've got to have something running through your brain. For my headshot sessions, because I'm going after the guy you like, the warmth, I'm thinking about people that I care about in my life, people who are meaningful to me, so you really feel that warmth. When you look in his eyes, they're dead. And the reason why they're dead, and this is typical for a lot of people who are just getting started, they put together headshots and they're not thinking, and because of that, they're dead, and there's just no life. So it's a headshot just doesn't grab my attention in a positive way because, once again, nice smile, but the eyes don't reflect it. Love this smile. Look at her face, very sweet, but look at the wardrobe. Once again, wardrobe should be like nice wallpaper. It should enhance your image, but I'm just like grabbed by all these patterns in there. So that's not good. This is a nice headshot. He plays the bad guy. Very talented guy, and this works well for him. Here's a good example of, this is kind of a little bit of a tight headshot, but you look at Ruth, she's beautiful. She is the anchor woman, she's the reporter, she's the doctor, she's the lawyer, she's the professional person, the mom, the teacher. She looks great. And then look what she does. This is considered a half body shot, but look how she's just posing for the camera. She looks like a model, and people don't want to hire models when they need actors. So I would get rid of this one, and this is the kind of shot you're going to go with. Here's a very old headshot of mine. This actually was an ad, and I wanted to start getting more um, charactery type of roles. So I used this ad. It was for a hospital, and basically the concept of this ad is, oh, you really expect me to believe that you guys are this good? Something along those lines. And it's a good, quirky kind of look, big glasses. It breaks all the rules for headshots. Half of my face is dark, big glasses. The other half of my face is getting covered up by my hands. But it was a good headshot for me to try to get character work in. And then what I was finding, I was only being considered for character work. So I needed to put together a different headshot that got rid of character that would allow me to get straighter kinds of jobs. So I looked at somebody's headshot. I went to an agent's office and I asked the agent, do you have any headshots of people who are successful, whose headshots you like, that are in my category? And they showed me a bunch of headshots, and I found one, and I saw this guy's headshot, and I thought, this is great. Very little expression and emotion. I went from real character to real straight, and I followed the same kind of lighting. I showed it to a photographer, same lighting, same wardrobe. It was a turtleneck, very little expression, loved it, showed it to the agent, and the agent looked at it and said, you look dead. There's no life going on. And she's right. There's nothing happening in my eyes that grab your attention, that shows any kind of personality. So here was a situation. I did everything that I wanted to do, but it didn't work. And by the way, just as a little side note, I hate doing headshots. I just did a headshot recently. They scare me. I feel so much pressure doing these things. When you hire me and you tell me what you want me to do, I can give it to you. I can show you a whole lot of expressions and emotions. When I have to do it for myself, oh, I dread doing them. So if you did a headshot, sometime fairly recently and you didn't get what you wanted, don't kick yourself. Don't think, oh, I can't do this work. I'm horrible at this. They're very difficult to do. And even, for somebody like me with a lot of experience, even at that time, it took me multiple tries to get what I wanted. So I went from this death look to I found somebody else's headshot. And I saw it and I went, wow, that's good. Now, typically I don't like going outside for headshots because, your eyes tend to squint a little bit, so they're protected by the sun. Sometimes hair starts blowing around if there's wind. You have less control. But sometimes, doing outside shots simply work. So I tried this one, did the shot. I liked it. There's life. This is the guy that you like. And I showed it to some agents. I was very excited, and they said the same thing. Wow, love that stone archway. Once again, that's a problem. People are focusing on other things than me. So now I'm into my third session with different photographer, and I wasn't blaming the photographers for any of these. These were my issues. And I found this guy's headshot, and I thought, that's interesting. Now, he's different than me. He looks smarter, hipper, quicker, talk show host. But I liked the feel of it, so I borrowed his idea, and that's what I did. Now, if you're anything like me, you will see things in your photos that make you nuts, that you just zero in on and focus on, that nobody else even notices. Now, I don't know if you see this, but when I got this shot back, all I could look at was, to me, I felt like I was in my first trimester. And the stylist just didn't really take care of the sweater well enough. The photographer's focusing on so many different things. I'm sure he didn't pick it up. But I liked it. Was it perfect? No. The other complaint that I had, I felt like I kind of blended into the background too much. I would have liked to have had a lighter background so I stood out more, but I liked it. And this was my third session. I decided I'm going with this one. And so I used that for a while, and I know I look like Bob Saget in that one. And I used it for a while, and then sometimes people ask, well, when do you change headshots? Well, typically when you are beginning, just at the very, very, very beginning stages of not looking like that guy. Because you never, 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 never want to put yourself or your agent in a situation where you're submitted for an audition or a job and you show up and the director, the casting director, they look at you and they go, hey, I don't know who you are, but the person that I'm looking at in this headshot, that's who I called in here. So when you can look like that person, come back. Otherwise, I don't need to see you. And it makes everybody look very unprofessional. So I used this headshot for a while. Then when I felt like, you know what, I need to put together a new headshot. I'm starting to change a little bit. So I did this headshot. I thought it was okay. I have to say it didn't really knock me out. I didn't think it was just incredible, but I was planning on using it, got some copies made, and then I did an ad for Nationwide Insurance. And I thought, you know what? Once again, it's not the ideal headshot. Like if somebody showed me this headshot, I'd say, well, I like the shot. Not so crazy about, your ear holding up a brick wall here, but aside from that, I like it. There's life in the eyes. You like the guy. He's successful. He's approachable. Somebody who, can handle tough situations. I like the shot. And then this was another one that I did. This also was from Nationwide Insurance that I really liked. And I used that one for a little while. And then I just felt like I got to a point where it was time for a new headshot. And this is my new headshot. And here's the crazy thing. Went to the photo session, and I went to the guy's name was Joe Henson, and he's in New York. And one of the reasons why I went to Joe, besides, he's very talented, there were some other people I was going to work with, but there's an agent that I was interested in trying to work with, and there were a number of agents who said this to me. They wanted a headshot done by a New York photographer because their market is New York, and New York photographers typically have certain styles. You do want a headshot that is usable in the market that you're living in. Now, sometimes they're universal and they can be used in other markets. Like I certainly can use this headshot anywhere, even probably in LA because it is an outdoor headshot, but certainly can be used throughout most of the United States, definitely in New York. So that's one of the reasons for going with Joe. And the crazy thing was when I went to him, I told him very specifically, this is what I want to do. These are the expressions. This is what I'm going after. This is the feel. And he said, well, why don't we shoot some outside? And I said, no, I don't want to go outside. I know what happens when I go outside. And we kind of battled about that one a little bit. And then we finished shooting inside. And he said to me, look, we've got everything that you need inside. Let's just go outside and play. I said, okay, so I'll do that. So we went outside the studio. It was a street. Assuming that there weren't, when cars weren't coming up and down, we did some shots. That's what I wound up with because I just loved it. I thought it was a really, really good headshot for me. It just has everything, all the elements in there that I like. And remember I was talking before about the V thing? Here it is. I've got the layers happening and the V thing happening, and it just forces your eyes to go right up into my face. I did have this cropped fairly tightly just because I know it's going to be on lots of websites. That's just how the industry works today. Agents are sending out JPEGs all the time. And so I wanted to make sure my face really jumped out there. In the original photo, there were some lighting things up here. There were street signs and stuff. I wanted all that stuff cropped out. And so I paid an extra fee to have it all taken out. So that way you just focus on me. So the one other area of headshots I just wanted to show you very quickly, this is considered a theatrical headshot. Everything that I just talked about before, it's a commercial headshot. This is theatrical. You'll notice theatrical headshots are used for theater, for serious acting work, not commercial work. And you'll notice it's not necessarily friendly, open, warm, inviting. There's a lot being said in the eyes, but it doesn't have to be this friendly, approachable kind of look. And this is Michael Willis, who's a very, very talented photographer. Okay, so that was actually section one. I know that I went into a little bit more details about things than I originally was planning to, and that's why it took a little bit longer. I'm thinking if you guys are okay, what I was thinking of doing was this. How about if we take literally, or actually, first of all, let me ask, are there any questions at all?
Are there any questions from the audience? There's nothing that's typed in right now, Aaron. I think you're covering things very fully and thoroughly, but someone might have
Okay.
questions.
Okay, no, that's fine. Look, it doesn't matter to me if you have questions or not. I mean, we can go the entire session without any questions. That's fine. Like with you, Joe, I just wanted to ask just to make sure I'm not kind of running through and not spending the time answering any questions that people have. Because I realize, and this happens a lot, when people are hit with so much information in such a short time period and in such a compactful way, sometimes people don't know what to ask. And that's one of the beauties of doing this online, where you're going to be able to watch this thing over and over and over and over again. And just so that you guys know as well, when this workshop is done and after you get the link, if all of a sudden a question pops up for you, I don't want you to think that I just go and disappear. If you have a question for me, feel free, just email me. You've got my contact information, and I'd be more than happy to get back in touch with you and try to answer it for you. Just please put in the subject line, I was at your workshop, so that I can prioritize, because I literally can get 4, 5, 600 emails a day, and I do prioritize people who've taken the workshop or purchased my book or done the private consultation. So just let me know sometime afterwards if if you have any questions.
One of
What I
our
was
students, Aaron, when I was asking earlier, I was informing them of how it's great to work with you, and one of the students made a comment. I'll keep it anonymous just because I don't know if he gave me permission to say his name, but he said Aaron is the reason where I am today in the industry. So I thought that was an interesting feedback, just so you know.
Oh, well, that's very nice. And when I do hear people say those kinds of things, like, it feels nice to hear, and I'm very thankful. But you know what? Honestly, don't give me that much credit, because I can give you guys the information, but you're the ones that go out and apply it. And I know there have been a number of people who've taken this, the information that I give, and they work very hard. And so all the success that you've had, it's truly due to you. And but thank you very much. I mean, that is always nice to hear.